time for Who's In, Who's Out. Who are the 12 teams we think will make the NFL playoffs this year based on 4 weeks now of NFL football? 2 teams had a bye. This week it was the Jets and Niners. Byes are in play. What do we got? Let's get into it now, boys. Who's in? Who's out? In the AFC East, Patriots beat the Bills. So the Patriots stay at the top. No changes there, I would imagine. Correct? I don't want to speak for you all.
That's correct.
I'm putting the Dolphins in there.
Ooh, that's a good call, yeah.
They are a minus 137, by the way. That's unbelievable. Let's go to the North. 2-2, 2-2, 1-3, 0-4. Geoff Mosher, who wins the North?
I have had the Browns from the start, and I did not give up on them after they lost to the Rams and started off 1-2. And I said because they were playing the Ravens, only if they lost the Ravens would I make a change. Instead, they kicked the crap out of the Ravens. So I will leave them as my AFC North champion, where I've had them all year.
I started the season, guys, with the Steelers. We all know how that story has played out. Last week, I had the Ravens, but given what's transpired on Sunday, got to go Browns. Browns are AFC North for me right now.
Yeah, what a weird anomaly. Browns are 0-2 at home, 2-0 on the road.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a good sign or a bad sign, but I'm sticking with the Ravens, and here's why. Plus 35. I think their defense just had an off day. Overall, a long season. I like the Ravens a little bit more than I like the Browns right now. But if the Browns pull off another big win like that, so I just think they had a bad day at home. But overall, I think that team's still pretty good.
Crazy how that game shifted the whole landscape for that division as of now.
I use that same philosophy for a different team we'll talk about later to not really knock them too much.
And it's weird. You're like, well, the Browns just kicked the crap out of it. Yeah, that happens. You lose head-to-head sometimes.
Yeah.
I just think the Ravens had a bad day. I think overall their defense is good enough. And I think their offense is they've scored 135 points. It's the most in the AFC. They're tied with the Chiefs. So I think they're much more equipped offensively. But that's going to be fun to watch those 2 teams. In the South, 2-2, 2-2, 2-2, 2-2. 4 teams, they're all 2-2.
Pick a card, any card.
They're all the same.
This is the craziest division I've ever seen in my life. Some of the statistics right now are unbelievable.
Who you got?
I've had the Texans all along, and I'm going to stay with them. They are right now 0 as far as net points. They've scored as many as they've given up. That makes them one of 2 teams in the division, along with the Jaguars. The Colts are -8, and the Titans of all the 4 teams are plus 29.
Well, they had the blowout on opening day.
Exactly. It just shows you how you can't overreact to one game. So I do think I stay with Houston because I feel like that team has so many new parts. They just continued. They need to grow throughout the year, and by the end of the year, they'll be the best team.
I also had the Texans. I had the Texans last week, but don't sleep on this Colts team. I feel like if it's not going to be the Texans, the Colts are going to hang around, and they have a chance to maybe steal this division. Everyone 2-2, so completely up for grabs, but I'm sticking with my pick. Houston.
Yeah, I've had Houston from the preseason to now. I'm going to stick with them. They lost at home, though, to Carolina. I'd like to go Indy, but they lost at home to Oakland. I mean, you figure that, man. So I'm sticking with Houston for at least another. I like Watson. Did you see his answer to the question he got asked?
Yes.
About not taking shots down the field. He's like, have you ever read a defense before?
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't being condescending. He explained,
it was a great
this is
explanation.
what
Good
happens.
explanation.
This guy does this, and that's why I can't do it.
It's also a good question to get that kind of an answer. People are like dragging the guy for asking, but it was a good question.
Yeah.
He had a good answer.
West, it is KC for me, 2 games up, and they are basically, right now, I think it's a 2-team conference between Kansas City and New England.
I would agree.
I would agree. Also have Kansas City, but the Raiders somehow 2-2 in that division.
Chargers 2-2 as well. Denver's 0-4. They're already asking whether Fangio is the right guy out there. Goes quick in the NFL. Quarter pole of the season. Fire the coach. All right, 2 wild cards. Ryan, who you got?
I got the Chargers. This was really tough for me, but I was big on the Chargers before the season, so they're 2-2 now with an AFC that looks to be somewhat up for grabs, at least today. I'm going to put the Chargers in at 1 spot, and then since I have the Browns taking the AFC North for this week's Who's In, Who's Out, I have the Ravens taking the other spot in the wild card.
I have the exact same. I had the Ravens and the Chargers last week. I did not overreact to the Ravens' loss. I still keep them as a wild card team. I had the Chargers. I never bailed on them, even when they lost to the Lions, and I still think, they come back here. They're 2-2. The Lions' loss doesn't look as bad now. The Lions look like a decent team. So Ravens, Chargers. The only team I even considered kind of putting in the last 2 weeks were either the Colts or the Bills, but the Bills, we'll see.
Well, last week I've had the Chargers in all the way. I have not bailed on the Chargers. I'm sticking with the Chargers. Last week I had Indy. That loss at home to the Raiders kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit.
Yeah, no T.Y. Hilton. They dropped a lot of passes apparently in that game.
But I was impressed with what I saw from Buffalo.
Yeah,
That defense I thought was legit. And if they can get Allen back, I mean, Gore and Singletary are a nice little duo in the backfield. They don't have a lot of weapons on the outside, though. But I like that defense.
The problem is the quarterback lost them the game. He threw 3 interceptions. If he doesn't throw those awful picks, they win that. They might win that game by 2 touchdowns.
True. Well, this week I'm going Buffalo.
Ooh.
Giving Buffalo a wild card spot this week.
All right.
I like their defense.
Throwing Buffalo a bone.
Well, the Colts put such a sour taste in my mouth losing at home to Oakland. And I can't go Raiders yet. Cleveland's the other one that I guess I could consider. But it's almost like I'm pulling for them not to make it.
You're rooting against them at this point.
I feel like it.
All right. Rex Ryan.
All right, NFC, who's in the East? Who you got?
The Birds. Sticking with them. Cowboys, obviously, we all know what they've been doing, but they lose to New Orleans. Not an easy game to go in and win by any stretch of the imagination, but now it seems like the NFC East is right there within grabs for the Philadelphia Eagles. I expect to win against the Jets this week, as most of us do. Sticking with my guns, baby. Birds.
I am also sticking with the Eagles. I've had them from the start. I promised myself, though, that I wasn't going to be stubborn. If the Eagles lost to the Packers and Dallas won, I would make the change, and they didn't. Neither happened. So Eagles stay and at the top of my NFC East.
I've been with Dallas. I'm going to stick with Dallas. I know they lost. Road game at New Orleans on a Sunday night. That happens to a lot of teams. And they still have a game at hand here. So I'm going to go with Dallas in the East. In the North, I got Bears all the way through. I haven't moved on them. And there they are, 3-1. Right there at the top of the North. The North has been pretty good. 3-1, 3-1, 2-1-1, 2-2. That's how the standings go there. I got Bears at the top. Who you got?
I got the Packers. Go, Pack, go, as Embiid once said. I mean, I've had the Packers all along. I'm sticking with them. The Bears' defense is frightening, keeping opposing teams up at night. But I think at the end of the day, the Packers are going to pull away in a really tight NFC North race.
Let me tell you something. I hate the Minnesota Vikings. I am repulsed and disgusted by what they are trying to do on the field every Sunday.
There's a butt coming.
I've had them as my NFC North leader since this started because I thought they were going to be a good team. They are a good team. They're just coached horribly. But I feel like they learned their lesson. And if they didn't, they will. They can't play that style of football, run first down, run second down, run third. That ain't going to work. And they're going to figure that out and start opening it up. And then they're going to start to pull away and win some games. So this is my leap of faith that these coaches are going to pull their heads out of their asses and really play football, and the Vikings are going to still win that division.
Duly noted.
It's a big leap.
I think you're right. I'm getting mad.
Let's go to the South, where you've got the Saints 3-1. Bucks and Panthers 2-2. Falcons 1-3. Geoff Mosher, I'm intrigued by your.
I have finally moved
South Bay.
off the Falcons.
All right.
And I said I would have to be proven. It's been proven. They're banged up again. They're not winning games. They look awful. And I put the Saints in coming off a loss. I think that was. No, it's not a loss. It's a win. So it was an impressive win by the Saints. They hung on there. They deserve to be considered the team to beat in the NFC South.
Yeah, I have the Saints as well. I think it's their division. I mean, the Bucks somehow now are sitting here today at 2-2, going to LA and winning that game. Props to Tampa Bay and Bruce Arians, but when it's all said and done, they're not gonna outrun the Saints. It's their division to lose. They get a couple big wins without Breeze. I like them down in New Orleans.
I also am going with the Saints, who we wondered if they get to 500 when Breeze comes back. They're 3-1 now. They won 2 straight. All right, let's go to the
with a -8, by the way.
That is true. The West 3-0, 3-1, 3-1, 0-3. Who do you like in the West?
I like the Rams. I've liked the Rams all along. I mean, the Niners, man, at 3-0, give them some props. The only team undefeated in the NFC. I don't think that's something that's going to be sustainable long term. They prove me wrong, so be it. But I think at the end of the day, it's going to be a 2-team race between the Rams and the Seahawks, and the Rams should edge them out. They've been my pick since day one. I'm sticking with them.
I've had Seattle since day one. They're 3-1. I'm sticking with them. Plus 14 right now. Not as impressive as the 49ers, but I still don't believe in the 49ers.
I like the Rams in the West. I've had them all the way through, and I'll go L.A. in the West. Now, wild cards are tough.
So
There's
tough.
a lot of potentials here. You can go with Dallas, since you guys both went with Philly to win. New York is 2-2. You've got all those North teams that are all in the mix still. You got Tampa, you got Carolina, both 2-2.
There's only 2 teams, Mike, that you really can't say in the NFC.
Arizona and Washington.
That's it.
And Atlanta's 1-3.
Yeah, they're in it.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, who are your 2?
My 2 are none of the mentioned just now. I've had Dallas all along in the wild card, and I had the Vikings last week, but I'm bumping them. Sorry, Moshe. I'm going Seattle for the other wild card.
I don't blame you. So I've had the Packers from the start, and they lost, but I'm not gonna bump them for Dallas because they play each other this weekend. So if Dallas wins that game, I'll be happy to put Dallas in and the Packers out. And I'm not gonna, like you were saying before, one game, I'm not gonna knock the Rams. They had a terrible game at home. I think 9 times out of 10 they're going to win that game. I still think they're a good team. So I'm keeping with the Rams and Packers, which I had last week.
Rams and Packers for you.
Yeah.
I'm sticking with the Packers. I had them last week, so I'm going to stick with them. I'm going Philly in the wild card. They're back in.
Welcome back to MG's
Well, the math
Who's
has
In.
changed for them.
Sure has.
The math has changed for them, which means a lot of good teams. Seattle being one of them. San Francisco is in the mix. Detroit, Minnesota, Carolina, Tampa Bay, and the Giants. They all have winning records, and they're all on the outside looking in. So that's who's in and who's out of this week's NFL playoffs. What's going to change after this week?
Everything.
Probably everything, yeah.
Literally everything.
Only so much longer I can stick with the Vikings and the Packers.
Yeah, you're clinging on, man.